This is our next class on demand and supply. Quickly to go over something we looked at the last day. The last day we focused on demand, and we looked at the fact that demand is the quantity of a product that buyers are willing to purchase at a given price. So the demand is basically the interest in buying something. If there is no demand, that means there's nobody willing to buy. If we were trying to uh, hold a concert. Let's say we're trying to organize a concert to raise money for a charity or something like that, and you're trying to get some Irish artists, some bands, some singers to perform at this concert. Um, the amount of tickets you sell will depend on the demand. So you have all these big, whatever. Let's say you have some local acts, some local musicians that come and they're going to play at the concert. They might bring a small bit of demand. There might be a few hundred people that might be interested in seeing these singers. If you were to bring somebody like Ed Sheeran, suddenly there'd be thousands and thousands of people that would be interested in buying those tickets, even though it's a concert that would be held in, Monaghan or something like that. If you were to bring a big headline act like Ed Sheeran, suddenly the demand would significantly increase because there's a lot of people that would be interested in purchasing, a ticket to go see, somebody of his caliber. So that's what demand is. It's the interest in buying something. Most of this chapter is looking at price. So even though we're talking about demand and supply, most of the time we're looking about how demand and supply affect price, and it's a really important thing for a business to understand. Not let alone obviously the fact that it's an important junior cert question. But if anyone was to eventually go and run their own business or anything like that, understanding how demand and supply affect price is huge. So price refers to the amount of money expected or paid for a product or service. By the way, regarding these notes, I'll tell you at the very end which of these slides I want you to write down into your hardback. There won't be as much that'll get you to write down, but so price is the amount of money people are willing to pay for a product or service. If you walk into a shop and you pick up a carton of milk, the price is €80. That's obviously the amount that you're going to pay for the carton of milk. So for most goods and services, when the price is reduced, demand will increase. When the price increases, demand will fall. And that's pretty easy to understand. If you take something simple like, let's say, again, the iPhone 12, let's say it sells for €1,300. If that price suddenly, let's say Black Friday comes along, they never drop the price of a high-end brand quality or high-end brand product. But let's say suddenly the price of the iPhone 12 dropped to €300. What's going to happen to the demand? Currently the price is 1,300 and suddenly they're going to drop the price by €1,000. The demand is going to significantly increase. I don't need a new phone, but if I hear that the iPhone 12 can be purchased brand new for €300, I'll buy it because I could sell it on for much, much more. It's very, very cheap. So obviously as the price drops, the demand increases. Generally, that's what happens when something goes on sale. If the price increases, demand will fall. So if something becomes very, very expensive, if you have a particular brand of clothing that is very, very expensive, not as much people can afford that product. So the demand will fall. Relationship between demand and price, real world examples. So housing is always interesting to look at for demand and supply because obviously it's a large amount of money. So in the housing market, increased demand for family homes in some areas has caused house prices to rise. So it's a huge thing, especially when the economy is generally doing very well. People generally have a little bit more money. And what happens generally, if people have more money, they might be willing to buy more houses. So an increased demand, or more people are willing to buy a house. So an increased demand for houses can cause the house price to go up. Let's just think of it in a simple example. If you were selling, you're selling houses, you're a construction company, you just developed 10 houses in a housing estate, and suddenly there's 1,000 people looking to buy those houses. You've only got 10 of them, and there's 1,000 people looking to buy. What are you going to do? Well, you're going to realize that, look, if I increase the price, I'll still probably sell these 10 houses. So let's increase the price. Lower car prices will increase the demand. That's the opposite. as the price drops, the demand will increase. So if you what you see here is that, and I can get you to take your pen out, what you're going to see here is increasing demand, prices rise. So if you literally write down here, so if demand, my laptop is demand increases, prices increase. So as the demand increases in something, if more people are interested in buying a house, house prices go up. What happens when the demand decreases? When the demand decreases and now nobody wants to buy a house, prices generally decrease too. You'll find that the price drops down as well. So adding that in there, just you don't need to worry about what slides to take down, but just write this into your notes copy. We're looking at demand, supply. So demand is your heading at the top. As demand increases, price increase. The price goes up, and as demand decreases, the prices go down. The more people are interested in buying something, the more expensive that item becomes. As the demand goes down, the price generally goes down. So this is what we call a demand schedule. Okay. Okay, so let's just make up a product about a jacket. So North Face jackets. If anyone knows North Face, they'd be kind of a premium brand of a jacket. Those big kind of black jackets that you'd see, but they'd be kind of a high-end brand. If the price, let's just say this is, let's just say we're working in the marketing department for North Face, and we're trying to decide on what price we're going to sell our jackets at. And we interview some customers and we find out how much of them would be willing to purchase this North Face jacket depending on what the price is. So this is what we found. We found that if the North Face jacket is going to sell for €50, 200 people are interested in buying it. But what happens when the North Face jacket becomes more expensive than €50? What happens when it becomes €100? Now the demand goes down slightly. Now there's 160 people willing to buy that jacket. Again, as the price goes up another €50, more people aren't interested in buying it. So now we're down to 120. And finally, if we hike up the price to about €200, and by the way, some of those North Face jackets are about €200. They're overly expensive, a bit ridiculous. But if the price goes up to €200, now suddenly there's only 80 people that are interested in buying. So as we see here, and it makes sense, as the price goes up, less and less people are willing to buy that product. So if you look at a really high-end jacket, jacket that costs €200, there's much less people going to purchase that jacket compared to a jacket worth €50. So we call this a demand schedule, and it shows the number of goods demanded by customers at different price levels. And you see this all the time. I mean, if you think of it like Rolex watches, Rolex are a huge company. They do very, very well for themselves. They sell watches that are generally worth thousands. There's not many people that are willing to buy it. But they've kind of assessed their market and they don't want to sell a cheap product. They want to go on the high-end product, but they know they won't have many customers, because the more expensive your product gets, the less people that can potentially buy that product. So that's our demand schedule. As the price goes up, the price is constantly increasing. It's gone from €50 up to €200. The demand goes down. 200 people are willing to buy the jacket at €50, and now there's only 80 people. So this is our demand schedule. So when prices rise, demand falls, because some consumers may no longer be able to afford the product, or may think it is no longer good value for money. If this happens, consumers may decide to buy another brand or product as substitute good. So that's just something to do with coffee there, but I'm going to go with maybe something that might be easier for you to understand, a jacket or something like that. So a kind of premium brand jacket, if the price continues to go up, as we said, the demand will fall, because some people will no longer think it's good value for money. For example, I have a couple of jackets. I will not spend €200 on a jacket. I don't care what the brand is. I think it's ridiculous. It's too overly expensive. But some people really like to wear a high quality brand, so they don't care how expensive it gets. They're still willing to buy. So that's the demand schedule. And generally, as the price rises, most people will say they can't afford the product, or they think it's no longer good value for money. And what happens then? They may decide to buy another brand. So instead of buying a North Face jacket, you go out and you buy a jacket instead from, a different company. And that's called a substitute good. So if I go into a shop and I want to buy, an expensive brand shirt, if there's an occasion coming up and I want to buy a shirt and I see Tommy Hilfiger shirts costing €80, I might go in there and realize, okay, look, €80 is a little bit over the top. I might go to another place. I might go to Burton's or another River Island or something and buy a shirt for €30. That's a substitute good. A substitute, like you would in sport, you're switching one for another. So substitute good. Instead of buying, an expensive jacket, I might buy a cheaper one with a different company. So that's what we're looking at here for demand schedule, and now substitute good as well. So substitute good is when you decide to buy, just in case you're not sure of it, but I will be getting you to write some of the notes down. Substitute good is when you decide to buy a different product instead. So this is kind of the final thing we're going to be looking at here, just over the next couple of slides. This stuff is very important, by the way. It's important that we understand what we're going through. This is a demand curve. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to show this information on the graph. I've talked through this already. I've showed this. If the price is €50, 200 people want to buy the jacket. So let's just think about, the North Face jackets again. Price is €50, 200 people want to buy the jacket. How can I show this on a graph? So if I pop down here, we can see there's a graph. On the y-axis here, we can see that we have our price. And on the x-axis down here, we can see we have our demand. What did we say happened when we set our price of the North Face jacket to €50? Well, if I look up here, when the jacket was worth €50, there was 200 people willing to buy it. The jacket's worth €50, that's 200. So that's my first point on my line. When the jacket was worth €100, there was 160 people willing to buy it. So just like you would in maths, you're just matching this up and just turning this table into a graph. When the price is €150, there's 120 people interested in buying the jacket. And when the price goes up to €200, there's now only 80 people willing to buy. And we call this the demand curve. So when the price is lower, the demand is higher. It'll go further over right. When the price goes up, the demand will drop here to the left. So this is our demand curve. And basically we plot those lines in the graph, we plot those dots in the graph. So I'm going to just basically look at this here. And I'm going to say that I'm going to try to just include, this isn't the best to include here, but I'm trying to look here and I'm going to say, okay, so when the price is €50, my demand is 200. So I'm going to draw a little dot here. The price is €50, demand is 200. When the price, I'm just going to copy this. When the price is €100, demand is 160. So I'm going to put my second dot. If it'll allow me, it's not. I'm going to have to insert again. So that's my second dot here, just around that point. So when the price goes up to €100, demand is 160. So that's my second dot. And obviously I'll have my third dot here. When the price is up to €150, the demand is 120. And finally my fourth dot. As the price goes up to €200, the demand is 80. And we got all these figures again from this slide over here. These are my figures and I'm just putting them into a graph. Now I have my 2 points. I know that if this is my point, this is my amount of my demand when my price is 50. And when my price is 200, this is my demand. I can draw my line. So when the price is high, demand is low. When the price is low, demand is high. A demand curve is a graph that illustrates the expected demand for a product at various price levels. So what we can do here now is we can guess how much will sell if we change the price. So let's say if I want to change the price down to €120. €120 down here. I'll go across the graph here and I'll see where on this line, if I draw a straight line from 120 over here, it'll hit about here on the curve. Well, it's a line, but we call it the demand curve. If I go down here, it might say about 150. So my guess is that if I changed the price to €120, I can expect to sell about 150 jackets. So this is our demand curve. The very last thing we'll look at here is changes in the demand curves. This is our last slide. So demand for a product can be affected by other factors apart from price. A change in these factors will cause the demand curve to shift, move left or move right. We'll go into more detail on that in time to come. Generally, it could be because of, suddenly there's a product becomes popular by the media is advertising it more, or there's a trend based on that product and people are now interested. I've talked about fidget spinners before because they're, if you can remember fidget spinners, they were suddenly out of nowhere, they became one of the most popular products in the world, and the price didn't really change, but the quantity significantly changed. So now and again something can change drastically, and we'll look at that the next day. I'll go into more detail on that next day about what else can affect demand. For now, just to quickly go over what we've done, we've looked at our price. I've only looked at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slides in total. I want you to stop here. So from slides 10 to 14. So again, there's only 5 slides. There's not that much writing. I want you to take down the slides, and I want you to take down this graph as well, all into your notes copy. So slides 10 down to 14. All of them, but there's only 5 slides. A couple of, about 3 or 4 lines on most of them. 2 to 4 lines on most of the slides, and this one obviously there's a graph as well. So what we've looked at again is that obviously as the price goes down, more people are interested in buying something, and as the price goes up, obviously less people are interested in buying. We talked through our example. If you take something like a high-end jacket like North Face jacket, if the price is €50, 200 people are interested in buying. As the price goes up to €200, there's now less people willing to buy it, and that's our relationship between demand and price. We're showing that here on what we call the demand schedule, and then we have to show this on our curve. Again, it's only a line here, but it can become a curve, so we're calling it the demand curve. And that is our focus for now. Obviously we've done this with demand. We've looked at the relationship between demand and price, demand schedule, and demand curve, and soon we'll be looking at all of this again, but for supply, and it's quite similar. So that's our lesson for today. Again, slides 10 to 14 I want you to take down into your hardback.